Hello, I just wanted to send out a message to all of my friends and family members because I have seen a huge outpouring of support from people in the last couple of months since I had my diagnosis of a brain tumor. I cannot believe the network of support of people that I have standing behind me and who are offering all of their assistance and support. I really do appreciate it, and so I wanted to say thank you. For all of that and reaching out to me. I also have had quite a few people ask me different questions, and so I thought that I might just take a moment to kind of tell you what's going on with my life and what's been happening and what the plan is from here on out, just in case you're curious, in the spirit of education, as you know that I'm in. I thought I would just kind of tell you what the process is and what's happening. So it's really random how I found out that I have a tumor in my brain. What happened was, as many of you know, I have been heavily involved in research for the majority of my life, either psychological research or physiological research, and I know how hard it is to find research subjects when you are trying to do a research study, and especially the more invasive they get, the harder it is to find people. And I always appreciate all of my subjects who have ever participated in any of my studies, and so I like to try and return that favor as much as I can. And so I signed up for a study at the University of Oregon that was doing functional MRI scanning of brain activity, which was really cool. It's actually an eating study, and looking at compulsions and desires for different kinds of food. And it was going to look at the different ways that my brain light up based on what kind of foods they showed me and how much I ranked those foods. Anyway, in that process, they also happened to do a structural scan as I was participating, and they're actually the ones that found the tumor, which is just crazy. I think somewhere deep down, I wasn't surprised or shocked. I think a little scared, I would say, but it's one part of my body that I actually hadn't looked at. And something in my head just said, you know what, I think you should go and do this study and you should see what's going on with your brain. And lo and behold, it turns out I have a huge tumor. I say huge because apparently it's a lot larger than what they've typically seen, and it's taking up a large amount of space. So they brought me in, let me know what was happening, and I was referred out to the doctor and had another MRI done to take a look at it, just to kind of give you a little bit of the specifics of what it is. It's called a meningioma, which actually means it's actually not in the brain itself, it's on the covering of the brain. So we have the skull, underneath it we have the meninges, and we have like the dura mater, the arachnoid mater, and the pia mater, for those of you who know your anatomy, and then you have the brain itself. If I'm correct, and I think that when I asked him, this is what he said, it's actually in the subarachnoid space. So it's actually coming from that layering, not actually in the brain itself. It's from the layering over my brain, but it's roughly the size of like a little larger than a golf ball. And they're really surprised that I haven't had seizures and don't have a history of headaches in that way. I get headaches, but they're all tension-related headaches. They're not migraines or anything. They think that this has probably been growing in me for a very long time. It's a very slow growing tumor. Because of the type of tumor that it is, a meningioma, there is no talk of cancer. The cancer has not even been brought up. 99% of the time they are non-cancerous, so that's not really a concern for us right now. But they are concerned with the size that it is and how much space it's taking up. And they're surprised that I haven't had a lot of signs and symptoms. In hindsight, I think that I had more signs and symptoms than I really ever realized, and I just chalked them up to other things. So you might be asking, like, where is it located and what kind of signs and symptoms might I have? It is located here on my left side, and it is in the motor cortex, which means it helps control some of my actions, and specifically in the area of the brain that controls the facial region. So it's really, and it actually my left side controls my right side. So if you notice, and you can probably even see it with me talking now, is that I'm actually a little bit asymmetrical from right versus left. When I smile, it goes up farther on my left side than on my right. If I force it, I can do it. But it's still asymmetrical. I chalked that up to a difficult surgery that I had with my wisdom teeth removal. But in hindsight, when I really look at it, the surgery that I had for my wisdom teeth was a few years ago, and I really didn't start seeing these signs and symptoms until in the last year or so. But I, in my mind, just chalked them up like, oh, that must just be nerve damage when I had that difficult surgery to remove my wisdom teeth on that side. I had been numb on this side after that surgery for a while, and so I just kind of chalked it up to that. I also teach for a living, and so I talk a lot, and I've been noticing a couple of things in that I have a harder time speaking sometimes. My words just won't come out of my mouth the appropriate way. And it's different than anything I had experienced before. And I just chalked it up to like, I'm getting older, maybe that's what happens. And so I kind of dismissed those signs and symptoms, but that's really all that I have. And so it really just wasn't presenting itself at all. So it's kind of surprising that we found it this way, and I'm very thankful that we did. As far as what they're going to do for the surgery, so they are going to go in and remove a section of my skull out. They'll have to shave that area, so I'm going to have an awesome haircut after this. They're going to remove the skull out. They're going to go in and try to tease apart the layers of that protective covering over the brain and tease out the area of where the tumor is. It's a difficult surgery. Things that we have to avoid is actually hitting the brain tissue itself, and then also not hitting any of the blood vessels that are located there. And it's actually highly vascularized in that area. And so the risks as far as the surgery goes is actually causing damage to that area of the brain, which would potentially lead me to not be able to talk or do things, facial movements and that. And then also because of the blood vessels there, trying to prevent a stroke from happening. And those are probably the biggest, and then infection, as it always happens with any kind of a surgery, are probably my three biggest risks that I have with the surgery. We debated it with my doctor and talked it over with my neurosurgeon. And right now I'm young, I'm healthy, I'm in good shape, I eat well, I'm not having a lot of signs and symptoms. And so the concern is if I just watched it and let it go, how quickly is it growing? And if I started exhibiting more signs and symptoms, that then I wouldn't be able to regain those strengths again. And so we finally decided it's better for us to take it out because that would be better than leaving it till it's too long. Also, I have to do it during the summer if I'm wanting to teach, so this is kind of like the ample time to be able to do that. As far as the surgery goes, I'll be going in on the 16th, and they said it could be anywhere, I think, from 6 to 8 hours or so for the surgery, and then I will spend a night in the ICU, intensive care unit, and then I'll be up on the neurosurgical floor for at least 3 to 4 days. That's kind of the thought process behind it. In order for me to get released from the hospital, I have to be able to eat, sleep, walk, talk, and do everything that I need to be able to do. And that's kind of my clearance for getting out of the hospital. After that, it's about a 4 to 6 week recovery in which apparently I'm supposed to be extremely fatigued during that time period. I will be cleared to be able to do exercise and other activities as long as I have the energy to be able to do it. So it's not going to be a health concern of limiting my activities. It's more of an energy level in which he's trying to emphasize to me how much I will be fatigued for 4 to 6 weeks. We'll just have to see. I got a lot of energy burning inside of me, so hopefully that'll go quickly because I do start teaching in 6 weeks from the surgery date. I've had a lot of people asking me what can they do to help. I strongly and firmly believe in the positive healing power of prayer, and so if you also believe in that, I would appreciate any prayers. And then maybe even especially on the 16th of August for my neurosurgeon to have steady hands and a good sense of mind and guide his hands during the surgery. And then also for a quick healing recovery and that everything is taken care of when this happens. As far as other things that can happen, I will be laid up in the couch or / bed for a period of time. So if you've got good books that you can suggest, or if you've got ideas for Netflix movies or TV shows to watch, I would appreciate that. Some people have offered assistance with the kids. At this point, we don't really know what we need. I appreciate that, and I will let you guys know if that's the case, but we're thinking that things will be good. Corey is all ready to take care of me. He's been wonderful throughout this whole entire process and so supportive of me. And then also my friend Shelly Rollins, my amazing friend Shelly Rollins, is putting together a meal train to be able to help us out with food for when we're first coming back from the hospital. And that's going to be posted on Facebook today or tomorrow, or coming up soon. People kind of ask me, am I experiencing any pain? No, I don't have any pain whatsoever. The vacation trip that we planned for the last couple of weeks when we were touring the Midwest, that was pre-planned prior to any of this happening. The Hawaii trip, though, was actually, I think, instigated by having the tumor. I was having a difficult time dealing with it, and I think my wonderful husband just wanted to get my mind off of it and to do something special with just the two of us before this all happened. So I loved the last 3 weeks of my vacation and have so appreciated my family for giving that to me, mainly as a distraction. It's been wonderful. As far as like how I'm emotionally handling it, I would say it really depends on the day. Coming back home and coming back into reality last night and this morning has been a little bit harder for me, but I'm managing the best that I can. At this point, I have no other option but to be positive that this is going to go well, because I don't want to live my life thinking that it's not, and I don't want to waste that time on it. I'm already going to have enough time with the recovery that I'd rather just be optimistic and believe that everything's going to turn out and everything's going to heal appropriately, and move on from there. I think that that's the best suggestion for me right now. That's not to say that I don't have my moments as far as being scared and being emotional, and it's just a huge thank you to Corey for dealing with that whenever I hit those moments pretty hard. But I just wanted to thank you all again for your support. I'm sorry for the long video, but I know there were a lot of questions, and I just thought this would be an easier way to get it all out. So August 16th, if you believe in prayer, I wouldn't mind if you sent a few prayers up my way or towards my neurosurgeon's way. And I will keep you guys all updated when I find out what's happening and how things are progressing. And I'm sure Corey will also post just to give everybody updates if I'm not quite cognizantly aware at the time. But thank you all for your support, and I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend, and hopefully I'll be talking to you again soon. Bye.